Hey YouTube, so today's video is going to be on how to buy a broken ATV, something broke down, non-running, however you want to call it. Maybe. So maybe you're out buying one for a parts bike, maybe you're buying something for a project, maybe you're just trying to get a good deal so that you're not $4,000 or $5,000 deep into your machine. You just want to get one for a few $100. What I've seen is a lot of sellers will say, oh, it needs a new top end, or oh, it's got a brand new top end, just doesn't run, needs a starter, just a carb clean. All it needs is a carb clean. So 99% of the time, they don't actually know what it actually needs, or they're lying, or just plain and simple, they missed the actual problem. I'm gonna give you some tips on what I do to make sure that the machine you're getting is what they say it is. A lot of times you'll go to a machine, this had the seat on it, I already listed it, but this machine, he told me all it needed was a fuel pump. Now, if you saw my other video, these have been off while it was running. You can see the mud in there. Now, I can guarantee you those clutches are gonna have issues. This needs more than just a fuel pump. He had the injector thing, the injector plug disconnected for whatever reason. I'm actually not hearing the fuel pump kick on. When you turn it on, you'll hear it zing if it's a fuel injected machine. Well, this also didn't have a front drive shaft and the front diff's destroyed. It's missing all of these parts. So no, it doesn't just need a fuel pump. It was also missing the back rack. I mean, I don't know if you could tell, but those bearings on the rear are shot. The muffler's absolutely shot. So when you go out and buy something like this and they say all it needs is a fuel pump and you get there and it has all of this, that's an issue, because that's a couple $1,000s worth of parts that you need there. But aside from that, if the seller says it's got a fresh top end, you need to make sure that you see proof. Not it looks new. I don't think I have any of these in here that have one that look new. But you need to see actual proof that it has a new top end on it. They say it just needs a carb job. What you should do is you're going to spray carb cleaner in here, not starting fluid, because starting fluid half the time won't start with stuff that I know runs. So I use actual carb cleaner, the B12. It costs a little more, but I think it's more effective. You spray it right in there and you can hear the machine start up. If you go to buy a machine that they say all it needs is a carb clean, and you spray carb clean in there, and you spray the B12 carb cleaner in there and it doesn't fire up, well, it needs more than a carb clean. If you want to go through the effort of somebody starting a machine that has no spark and trying to see if it has spark or not, you can. That's up to you on seeing if you can get a seller to let you take the machine that far apart. I've bought machines where he swore that it was just the crank locked up, and I was like, well, I'll pay the $500 you're asking if we could pull the head off real quick. But it did only take 30 minutes to pull the cylinder head off that WR450. So next thing you want to look for is if the machine turns over. So I have a jump box just in case the battery's dead. This machine here, so that's either one of two things: a seized engine, or one of three things: seized engine, a seized starter, or a dead battery. In this case, I know this machine has a dead battery. That is your starter solenoid. That's what's making that buzzing sound. So what you can do is you can jump that solenoid. And that's in the instance if you are buying it and they're saying that the starter's locked up or all it needs is a starter relay, you can jump those 2 pins even without a key or anything like that. Let me see if I can get to it easier on his. I'll show you on this quad. So the key is off on this machine, and we are going to turn the engine over like that. If your battery's dead, it's not going to turn it over. Now your engine will not start that way because your ignition's off. So jump in the solenoid. That's in the instance if you don't have a recoil pull string on it. So another option you have, if we'll say there's no battery on it, battery's dead, you don't have a jump box, maybe you have a good battery, one of the things you can do is apply power directly to the starter. There's a post on there. If you apply power to that and all you get is a grunt, there's a good chance that engine could just be locked up, but it could also be the starter's locked up. These Polaris, they're a little more difficult because aside from being able to turn it over like that, the only other way that you can verify that this engine's not seized is take your clutch cover off and spin it by hand. You see, this one doesn't have it either. Some engines will have a hole that you can remove the plug and actually be able to physically turn it over with a wrench. So Polaris and Can-Am can be a little difficult like that to verify that it's not seized. So on a solid axle machine like this here Honda Recon, you want to put it as high gear as you can and then roll it. It's really hard to do with phone in hand. It's a lot harder to do on pavement, especially I don't get no grip in here, but you get the point. If you're out there on the concrete grass, you can actually roll it to turn the engine over. That applies on like this 400EX as well. You just want to put it in gear. And you can feel the air coming out of there. I forgot her Recon doesn't roll backwards. Doesn't work in gear. So another thing, I've bought a lot of machines. I've met a lot of honest people, but it would have to be at least a 60-40 split between people that lie and people that are honest. And the honest being the 40%. The ones that'll say, this is all it needs, that's all it actually needs, or relatively close, nothing major, it's slim. So just be cautious when you buy something like this that's broke down, that you don't trust what they say too much. So another thing to watch for is if you pull up and they just want to unload it, get the money and run. I've seen a lot of people get burned like this. If it doesn't have the kicker, you can still roll it in gear to get it to turn that engine over. If they're in a hurry, maybe they do actually have something to do, but a lot of times there's a lot of people trying to run a scam. If I said all this Sport Trax needs is a starter and you didn't know you could roll start it, and I say, hey, I'll sell it to you for $1,500. Get down, I got my dogs in here. I'll sell it to you for $1,400. And you're like, yeah, it's pretty good, clean 400EX for $1,400. and you get home, you put a starter on it, and find out that it's locked up. That's why rolling it is the best bet. And I've actually had that happen to me. I had made about an 1.5 hour trip to go look at a 400EX that he said needed a starter. It was pretty rough compared to this one. He wanted a 500. I get there and I start trying to roll it and it won't do anything. Well, he tried to pull a fast one on me. I did end up buying it, I think, for $350, and I told him that it was locked up. He's like, oh, no, it's not. I had a mechanic look at it. Well, when I got it home and started taking it apart, all of the bolts were loose. And when you opened it up, everything was grenaded inside. There was no good piston, the valves were destroyed, the head was trashed. Everything in here was destroyed. And if I remember correctly, it tore up the crankshaft and everything. So when I say be cautious of when you're trusting the seller, that's exactly what I mean. So if they say the top end's locked up, that's rare. Most of the time I've seen top ends locked up, it's because there's water and it's just rust seized. Dirt bikes, a lot of 4-strokes, it's usually the faster machines like the TRX 450Rs, YZ 450Fs, stuff like that. If they say it just needs a top end because it's locked up, a lot of times that has 100% dropped a valve or somehow made contact, and you end up having to buy a cylinder, piston, and a head. Heads are very expensive. Majority of the time they're 300 plus for a 4-stroke head, depending on the demand. I know like a CRF 450R, the cylinder head on that's $400 or $500. So keep that in mind. Rarely top ends lock up. All right, so this is the last of what I'm gonna have on here. And just if you're listening to your gut feeling, if you get a seller start acting salty, they're unhappy. They don't want you to try anything. They don't want you to try to do that. If you feel like you should walk away, walk away. I've had too many times where I went to buy something and it just didn't seem right. And I wish I'd have walked away, bought it anyways, got it back, and well, I should have walked on it. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you do if you buy broken machines. What do you look for? What are your signs? Maybe we can have a nice guide going here. So if somebody else is out buying something, they don't get burned. Just to recap, I realize every single Facebook post says, it's got a new top end, brand new this, brand new that. A lot of times those are Chinese parts that I find, they're not that great. So like, subscribe, let me know what you think.